Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, December 19th, 2012 meeting and last meeting of the year of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This is going to be a particularly short meeting because unfortunately, although we sent the materials to the Falmouth Enterprise to be advertised, somehow they did not appear. We don't know what the problem is, but it means that we can't hold the hearings that weren't advertised properly. So it's going to be very short. First item is a discussion with the Department of Natural Resources on dredging Bourne's Pond north of the bridge. Tommy just asked me about this because he said, well, we heard the thing about widening the pond. It has nothing to do with the wastewater quality. This has to do with 2008, putting sand on the Minot Beach, and one of the conditions that the Falmouth Conservation Commission, one of the concerns that the commission had was the sand was going to be put just upstream of the inlet to Bourne's Pond, and we were concerned that sand would move into Bourne's Pond. And those of you who follow the pond have noticed that the delta has gotten bigger and bigger. And the Division of Marine Fisheries samples every 4 to 6 weeks, and well, Chuck will tell you the date, but several years ago, or a year and a half ago, came to Chuck and said the water quality is definitely declining. And the measure that the DMF uses is they have a series of stations from north to south, and they look at the bacterial counts. And so one of the, well, I think the only, am I correct? The only justification for dredging, except a normal channel that's dredged for navigation, is for water quality purposes.
Yes, Madam Chairman, when the commission issued the order for the Minot Beach nourishment project, the town was required to obtain a permit to dredge Bourne's Pond north of the bridge, an area that historically had never been dredged before, in case
Water quality
the concerns of the commission and the Department of Natural Resources were realized and the water quality in Bourne's Pond started to decline. A condition of that, the town obtained that permit. It is part of the, it is in with the comprehensive dredge permit that this board saw a few months ago. But one of the conditions for dredging north of the bridge in Bourne's Pond is that the data and the findings do need to be presented to this board, and this board makes the final decision. So Chuck Martinson from the Department of Natural Resources is here to discuss what's going on in the pond, what data we have. I've asked for them to do some surveys to compare with the surveys that were done in and around the time of the beach nourishment. So we have some pretty strong data to back up the concerns.
Right, and I just want to mention that obviously we and the Department of Natural Resources have worked on this, and so has the Department of Public Works, the engineering.
Yes.
Have worked with you,
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct, and Mass Environmental, or Mass Division of Marine Fisheries as well.
Marine
It's been
Fisheries.
very helpful.
So Chuck, good evening.
Sure. Good evening. Chuck Martinson, Acting Director of Natural Resources here in Falmouth. Thank you guys for kind of preparing everyone, setting the stage for where we're at this evening. March of 2012, I was contacted by my area biologist, whose name is John Mendez. And he indicated that he was looking at the water quality in the pond, and the measure that they were using in the pond was fecal coliform counts, which they test for on average every 6 to 8 weeks. And the trending that he was finding was that we were exceeding the standards occasionally, and then more frequently. And not only, in some cases we were exceeding the standards, in other cases there was trending, the water quality was diminishing over a period of time. I've submitted for the record roughly 10 years of time series data from the Division of Marine Fisheries, from their area biologists who do sample at various stations. Currently, we're in a state right now where the area is actually closed to shell fishing. Now, ordinarily, it would be closed during the winter in the southern half anyways, is a seasonal closure, but it was closed before its normal time and has consistently had some rough numbers over there, water quality-wise. And it was, when it really reached the fulcrum point was when we had Hurricane Sandy. And I think that there was, some serious movement with the flood tide delta around that time. And that's from visual observations driving by there. And I think anyone who kind of goes by there will probably come to those same conclusions. When we went to, with the support of the manager's office, we went to the fall town meeting, requested $50,000 to dredge the inlet for water quality. From a natural resource perspective, clearly there is probably one of the most valued resources in that area is the eelgrass. It's one of the only remaining ponds that we have on the south side that has a significant level of population of eelgrass in it, partially due because there's really no boat traffic in there, and a number of other reasons as well. So that certainly is one of my primary concerns, is that eelgrass in that eelgrass community, which historically has done very well. There's also a shellfish resource in there, quahogs and softshell clams. Softshell clams tend to do marginally well in there. We have had years where we've had significant sets in there. We've had other years where we've struggled and we've lost 500 or 600 bushels in a 2 or 3 day period in July. So I guess where I'm getting at with that is we are in a tenuous position where the slight movement or change of water quality can have significant effects on the pond. Leading up to this, I met with Jen at the site. We were able to walk onto the flood tide delta and have a look at it. Jen requested that we have a survey done of the area. I've already given Jen a copy of that, but I will also, I believe there's a copy you guys already have, where I can submit this whole packet tonight for the record, which details that survey work that was done in there. Essentially what we'd be looking to do is stay within, obviously, the dredge footprint, which is permitted, which essentially, I can hold this up I don't know how well everyone can see this, but the permit is in this area right here. We don't want to dredge straight up the pond. It's not, for a number of reasons. First of all, if we have another large storm, we don't want to get material so far up north here that we can't address it. We're already having some difficulties just getting this sand right here because we can't fit a dredge underneath this bridge right here. So we're already having to use some specialty equipment. That's why I have Chip Schultz with me here this evening. He has an older design way that was used. It's a crescent dredge that's used to pull the material back, and very similar to what we use at Trunk River. Works very successfully, and I think to a degree in a sensitive area like this, it does less damage because it doesn't have a large cutter head that goes in and sets up steep banks. So anyways, sticking with this same footprint, which if I hold that up, you can see that the footprint that was permitted and the channel that exists, what's left of it, there's some similarities there. One thing that I just wanted to add to the record is, a number of years ago, the manager's office, the engineering department, conservation as a whole, we applied for a grant up at Fisherman's Cove for sewering up in that area. And the water quality actually improved just after that project was completed. And subsequently, we were able to open further up further north in the pond for shellfishing. One of the things that I wanted to make sure was that that system that was put into place was being maintained, and that what we actually weren't dealing with was a system that was in failure, and that was the system that that had a remarkable change on the pond. I spoke with the DPW. The last time that system was cleaned was the most recent time was this past January. And I'm following up with more records on that, but I wanted to just submit this form from them that gives the date that they went out and they serviced the whole galley system over there. So that is, we've kind of followed up on that end, making sure that that wasn't the issue, that we really do need to be dealing with the flood tide delta. I don't know if there's anything else.
No, the only other thing is your time frame. I
Yeah.
believe we're up against the time of
Right.
year restriction.
We sure are,
So
yeah.
the work does need to be completed by January 15th.
15th of January, correct?
Yeah, so I've met out there, as Chuck said, with them. We've met with Mr. Schultz regarding the type of work that they can do out there, and we're pretty much set to go if this commission feels comfortable with that.
I think I
It
just.
does need to be addressed.
Just add one more piece to that. Initially, we were looking at a few different possibilities with the material.
Oh, yes.
Either hauling it off-site, moving along in the system and having it placed on the easterly side so that it would continue to work its way down the shoreline. And then the suggestion was made, which I think is a wonderful one, by Jen, your administrator, and that was to rebuild that dune that's on that west side.
That's no longer on the west side.
Correct.
Yeah.
We had a phone conversation with the superintendent of beaches, Mr. Hoffer, who has agreed to provide adequate amounts of seed grass and adequate amount of man-hours to plant that in the correct time of year, I think, which was a concern of Jen's. So, that, I think that would probably be the direction that I would like to see that go as well. And again, it was, I think, a very wise decision to go that route with it, so.
Basically, Madam Chairman, what we would do is dewater the material in the west side parking lot. DPW would recreate that dune, and AmeriCorps is looking for a group project. There is an AmeriCorps person that is working with the engineering department that I've been contacted to try to help them identify a group project. I think this would be a great group project for them. They can plant the material with the appropriate amount of beach grass plugs, which was lacking in the last
Right.
sacrificial dune was there, and I think it's a good use of the material we're gonna pull out of there without having to haul it off-site and then bring material back onto the site to recreate a dune, so it's perfect timing, actually.
Okay. Good. Let me
Sure.
let me just open it and see if people have questions. I can see Courtney's ready with a question.
No, I was gonna make a motion to approve the request to dredge.
Ah,
And I'll second that.
okay. Any questions?
Every once in a while, if I may, Madam Chair, thank you, Jen, for the time put into this, and it's nice to have multiple views on this. I think that's one of the best parts of when something like this falls together and the cog fits the wheel. I have a tremendous comfort level with all that are involved here, and so I know that this is something that we will address again, but hopefully not so soon.
Are we concerned about putting that material back in the dune location and having a big storm come through and it ends up right back where we just pulled it out because it's before when we can plant it?
That was a concern of Chuck's. It is something I'm hoping that without putting the material actually on Minot, the west side of Minot Beach, the material will stay up in that dune. That dune they had there, I mean, if they want to rebuild that dune, they have the ability to rebuild that dune.
I don't think that dune ended in the pond.
It protects the
That dune
parking
went out
lot.
to
It's
sea.
not subject to the same wave action where the sand that was placed on the beach kind of moved. It's a concern, absolutely, but we do have to balance protecting the parking lot and the road too. And I
Yeah.
just think this time, having it planted right away and trying to establish beach grass on that as opposed to the material we had there the last time that we weren't able to plant. Hopefully this will anchor that dune in.
Yeah.
But I understand the concern.
It
I mean, our
it could
concerns
happen,
over
but
this-
there was no evidence that that dune had moved back across the road. I mean, there would have been some
Right.
evidence of it, and there was no, I mean, we went out there Actually, we met you out there at that
We
point.
were all out there.
It's just interesting that all the concerns that we had about this project from the beginning have occurred.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But we're moving on.
Yes.
We're in 2012, almost 2013, and we're moving on. So, and I know it'll take a lot of coordination, and I just want to emphasize how much coordination has gone on between your department, Jen's department, DPW engineering, the beach department,
Mr.
and
Schultz with it's this.
Chip's help.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a task to get that out there and set this up, because, again, we can't get the dredge out there without the expertise in that specific equipment, which really is not available anywhere, except for the stuff that Mr. Schultz has to be able to get that. So we're very excited
Yeah.
about that resource.
So good luck. Maybe you'll be done before I get back. Yeah, I will.
And just a quick comment, is speak to future beach nourishment projects in that area.
Courtney, right now, the board, on the comprehensive dredging permit, there are certain areas in town that have been identified for beach nourishment. This board specifically did not approve Minot Beach, the west side of Minot Beach for beach nourishment.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to allow this project to go forward as we
It's permitted.
had, as we had permitted, as we had envisioned, and requested to be permitted and was permitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Happy holidays, gentlemen. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll catch up with you before the end of the week.
Courtney, we threatened Chuck with a lump of coal yesterday, and he wasn't happy. You have it? You have it for him?
I don't, unfortunately.
Oh,
No,
we'll
the-
get it
the
and give it to
reason
you
I
another
made an
time.
I made an assessment of the,
Meeting?
Agenda?
of the issues and the agenda in our commission, and I decided that coal was not a worthy thing to bring in tonight.
All right.
Good. He also realized we had no hearings tonight.
Thank you.
Chuck wasn't happy, but I told him he'd like the coal, because it's
We
it's
can-
pretty.
Madam
get
Chairman,
it
I
for you,
promised
though.
everybody 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right. Next is discuss and vote conservation restrictions for Teledyne instruments. That's going to be at a later date after the new year.
Yes.
Vote minutes of 12/5/2012. I'm going to ask Ed and Courtney to handle this matter expeditiously, since they were the ones who had a problem with the previous minutes.
Ed, you want to comment on that? There was that one section on page 3 that I was trying to figure out how I was attributed to that comment.
Yeah, the attribution should be to me, because I was the one who made those
Okay,
comments.
so how should this read then?
Well, just change it to
Just
Ed
change
said rather than you
Bird to
said.
Schmidt,
Okay. Bird to Schmidt. Ed, can you tell me what page that's on?
I think it was page 3, was it?
3.
Hang on.
Yeah,
Hang on.
third page.
Third page, C,
Courtney
Bird,
had it
so it's
marked.
Ed. Okay.
Okay, could we have a
Four.
motion?
Move to accept the minutes as amended.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, request for a determination of applicability. This is Town of Falmouth Engineering, care of Peter McConerty, Oyster Pond Road at Trunk River. This is permission to remove failed bike path pavement, replace missing base where required, repair shoulders utilizing materials washed in the parking lot to the northwest of the damaged section, and to install new asphalt in the bikeway and restore to pre-Hurricane Sandy conditions, and we'll hear that on January 9th.
Yes, we'll be advertising that for January 9th, and just to let the commission know, I have allowed the DPW to begin the limited portion of that work, just so they can get
Right, I know
going.
they're concerned about
Yes, they are concerned
that
about it.
area.
When we did address it with them, they immediately came in with the RDA, so it will allow them to begin that. Whether they can fit that into the schedule or not is yet to be seen, but we will be advertising that for January 9th.
January 9th, okay. Gansett trustees, care of Ellen Adams, Gansett Road, Woods Hole, for permission to remove dock pilings and replace with Greenheart pilings, remove and dispose of 3 float pilings and replace with 2 piles, all work done from a barge. That's withdrawn. We'll hear that as an NOI at some point
Yes,
in the
this is a
future.
continued RDA, and it has been withdrawn.
Okay, and another continued RDA is Seascape Association, with Waterside Drive, care of Henry Leeds, Waterside Drive, North Falmouth, for permission to preserve the vista, to control invasive vines and shrubs, install native shrubs where gaps are created from invasive plant removal, and to permit the existing composite boardwalk. We'll hear that. It will be advertised, and we will.
No, it's a continued RDA. We're on continued RDAs.
Oh, it's a continued RDA.
It's a
but
continued RDA, and they're requesting a second continuance until January 16th.
Do we have to
So
vote that?
moved.
Yes.
So
Second.
moved, second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Request for a hearings under a notice of intent. This is the notebook that everybody got, Comcast North Central Division and NSTAR Electric. Everyone keep your notebook. You'll be able to keep that notebook after we're done with this project.
That will be
But
advertised
we'll
at a
hear it
later date.
At a later date. Or if they change the project, we'll get a second notebook. For now, keep the first
Please
notebook.
keep the binders until further notice.
Okay, vote orders of conditions, Charles Jeffrey and Veronica Jordan, 207 Meadow Neck Road, Wacoit.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the board heard this project last week. This is that beautiful property at the end of Meadow Neck Road to be installing the sheet piling along that old concrete wall
Right.
just off the beach. I don't think the board had any special conditions. The only concern I had was all of the trees along the top of the higher part of that wall, and we were assured that when they directionally drill in those tiebacks in that area, that the root systems of those trees will be avoided.
Yeah, I have a special
We can do that
condition.
as a special condition.
I want a new plan submitted with those trees on the plan.
Okay, plan with trees. Okay. Trees and then protect tree roots. Okay.
Beautiful, they're beautiful trees. And while the applicant wants to protect them,
Yeah.
who knows who might have that property next? Okay,
Motion
I mean, it
to,
is gonna be a fairly large project. I mean, that wall is huge. For those who were able to get out there, it's a pretty, I think that's like 800 linear feet of
Feet,
beach
yeah.
there. It's a pretty extensive project, so, but I think something has to be done out there, or that wall will collapse.
I will mention that I did have a call from someone out there after we had that hearing, who said that when beach nourishment was allowed there in the past,
It went up into
it went up in
Moonicus
Moonicus River. And actually Chuck verified that as
I
well.
did.
So it's the same question with beach nourishment. There are places where it is appropriate, there are places where
It's not.
there's some concern.
Yes.
motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
Any further comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. James and Christine Blue, 20 Eldridge Drive, North Falmouth.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is the staircase along the coastal bank. Some of you thought you were a couple of parcels down during this area. Not so. Basically, they're raising the staircase up. It's going to be generally the same footprint,
But
but
do
it's
mat
going
and
to
plant
improve
underneath it.
access. Going to plant underneath it, and the notice was also submitted to address some illegal cutting that had happened on that bank, and that has been addressed through the restoration plan that was submitted by Jack Vacara.
Okay?
So you'll have some monitoring components in there, stabilizing the slope while they construct the staircase. The jute matting was a concern of yours, Michelle, but it is.
Yeah, apparently it was on the landscaping
was
plan,
out,
not on
yeah.
what I was looking at. so.
Outlined on the landscaping plan, but we'll make special note of that in the conditions, and it should be okay.
Good.
I'll move to approve the order as presented.
Second.
Any additions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Other business? None?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Merry
Unanimous, so
Christmas.
moved.
Merry
For anyone
Merry
who can,
Christmas.
who can stay.